You got this and you got that, and you gonna murder this one and murder that one. Talking all that bullshit. I'm gonna put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me. I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What is poppin', everybody? And welcome back to another special episode of the Only Friends podcast, where, you know, it's me and my only friends, which include, but is not limited to, my dumbass brother that can't find his title.
I knew it was coming to me.
I'm about to kill this kid. If you guys want to see Landon get murdered, it's about to happen.
Man.
What's poppin', Landon? How you feeling?
Metaphorically speaking.
I got glasses.
I'm gonna
In-game.
In-game?
No, you
You're
can't
gonna murder him in-game.
Yeah, you
in-game.
can't say in real life.
Oh, what happens?
Bad for the algorithm.
Oh, sorry. In-game.
Yeah.
Hey, nerd. What are you doing?
I got glasses. I feel great.
You look great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I felt like they
Those
fit
thighs
me.
look fucking great. Jesus H. Christ.
We're fibros.
Can we get you back in the gym? Look at Lamanna. Lamanna's been fucking hitting it, bro.
What do you fucking think?
What's
man?
wrong
Of
with
course
me?
I've been hitting it.
What's wrong with me?
Well, you look like a middle-aged woman with osteoporosis.
Jesus Christ.
Why?
Fucking Big Bird over there. Jesus Christ. Can we get you in the squat rack or what?
What are you talking about? What's wrong with me?
I just said.
I don't get it.
You got the S shape to your spine, you know?
What? No.
You look fragile.
Why?
Because your legs are very, 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 very skinny below the knee.
Do you even lift, bro?
Do you even lift, bro?
But I just have bad leg. Look at my legs. I just have bad legs.
No.
Yeah.
No, come on.
I have long legs.
You do have long legs.
Okay then.
You don't have Look at Lamanna's legs. Jesus Christ. Put them away, kid.
Yeah,
Hey.
but the turtle is smaller.
He's
We
cooking.
found out that the turtle was fat.
Turtle does fucking
Oh,
squats.
yeah. How much does a turtle weigh these days?
Turtle's down about 5 pounds.
Okay.
We're getting there.
Okay.
It's been a little bit of a struggle. I think I
93?
could have been down more, but, you know, I feel like beer.
Yeah, you deserve
listening.
it for calling me osteoporosis. Yeah.
No, Berkey
Get hurt more.
goes all over his keyboard.
Yeah.
The part I'm most upset about is not that I have a mess. It's that I have that much less Ghost to drink.
Yeah, I understand.
It's very, very upsetting,
Yeah,
to be
Man,
quite honest.
That's an amazing shirt.
Thank you.
Berk.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm
What
the
is
only one in the room
Can
that's
someone
going to get it.
explain what's happening here?
You don't know about the
Submit it for your approval.
Fedko Zone. He was a local sports broadcaster for WPXI.
John Fedko.
Channel 11, if you will, John Fedko. And every Friday during high school football season, he did the Fedko Zone.
The Fedko Zone.
Actually, it might have been two. I might be conflating.
I
He
don't
might
think
have
it
had
was-
high school highlights.
Yeah, he
and
did.
the Fedko Zone.
Right.
The Fedko Zone was just highlights of all sports.
It was like bloopers and shit.
Yeah. So good, man.
Where do you even
Oh,
find?
man, he found it. Look at
Wow,
that.
the internet is undefeated.
Best of the Fedko Zone.
Oh man, what a fucking legend this guy is.
Yeah.
Where do you find a shirt like this?
There's a lot of Yinzer paraphernalia.
I'm guessing that's is that Steel City?
No. It was it's not even on the
Pittsburgh
tag.
Sporting Club? Or
No.
Pittsburgh. What's it called?
Whatever you're about to
Yeah.
say, the answer is no.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one it was.
This right here is
Mhm.
part
I
of
was
the
very
Fedko
excited
Zone.
to get it though.
So it's like fails in sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of bloopers,
and-
bits and reels.
Right.
He did do the high school highlights too. He'd get in the chopper. And he'd get in the WPXI chopper and he'd like
Right.
fly over one high school every Friday.
Yeah. It's like,
Springdale
oh,
versus
man.
Leechburg,
Right.
homecoming game.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah,
We'd
we're
lose by
talking.
56.
Were you guys part of the Fedko Zone?
At some point in my high school life, we were
We
on,
made it, yeah.
not the Fedko Zone. We were on high school highlights,
Right.
or lowlights. We were probably the highlight of
The other team.
someone else.
Right. We contributed to the highlight
yeah,
of the other
GCC
team.
putting up 85.
Jeez.
We were the highlight.
Nah, never got to 85. 60s maybe.
Well, you would know. You were there.
I was there.
I
On the
opted out.
sidelines.
On the sidelines.
On the
Squatting.
sideline.
All right. We got a lot to get to in a little bit of time today. We're going to be joined at the top of the hour by Katie Stone and Andrew Barber. For anybody who's been following along their conversation, they, specifically Katie, has been kind of beating the drum as of late. She's now working in a nonprofit. She took over her mother's charity in Houston, and she's been beating the drum about hiring former poker players as employees and like what great hires they are and how many options are available to people with our skill set. Barber, of course, reoccurring guest. He's been beating this drum for quite some time. They wanted to come together and have a discussion over it, so we're going to do that at the top of the hour. In the interim, we're going to get to some highlights of our own.
Interim.
Interim? That's how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
All these years?
Yeah. That's what these glasses are for, man.
No, come on. Come on, don't do this to me again.
Interim.
Don't do this to me again. That's how it's spelled, I know.
It's not interim.
I
It'd be interim.
always thought it was interim.
Interim. Yeah, how he pronounced it is how I think it's pronounced.
Should we ask Senor Google?
Go for it. It's interim.
Don't do this to me again. You don't say rim. Interim. You don't say, no, that's too many syllables.
It's not interim.
It's interim.
I, for one, am here for this.
It's one syllable, not three.
It's interim.
Yes, I know how to spell it, but it's.
So why would it not be 3 syllables? Why would it not be interim?
It's not 3 syllables. I feel confident in this one.
Do it, Guap.
Interim.
Fuck me.
It's like I got these glasses for a reason.
Yes.
Fuck me.
I mean, come on. Like,
Interim?
you're always going to lose. Not always.
I do go with the guy who ESL.
Yeah. Like,
I agree with his pronunciation. Sorry, I got you, Barbo. I got you. ESL for me,
I'm usually
too.
pretty good at these.
Yeah,
Interim.
but like Landon versus Berkey in these situations, it's like...
It's not just me. I got glasses
you're
now,
You're 90%
man.
favorite. In
I
these
got glasses now.
Yeah.
This is what
IQ
happens.
just
You get
instantly
smarter.
shoots up.
Papa said I look smarter.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue to say interim.
You could do whatever you want, just
right.
wrong.
You're allowed.
It's just
I think
wrong.
it's 2 syllables. Interim. Interim.
You know what?
You know what the old adage
Interim.
is?
There. Yes.
It's interim.
interim.
All right, everybody shut up
It's
for a
3
second.
syllables.
Interim.
Oh, she made it 3.
Yeah.
God damn it. If you say it fast enough, though, it sounds like 2.
Put that on 2x speed. and
Why
try
would it
it.
not be 3 syllables? You could clearly see them all.
What, that's not. What are you talking about?
Interim.
That's not how words work. You can't just like look at a word and be like, that looks like a 3-syllable
I'm
word.
pretty sure that's how phonics works.
Yes, if things are pronounced phonetically,
Hooked on phonics worked for him.
not everything's
I never took
pronounced.
phonics. I only know phonics for the 3rd graders.
Not everything's pronounced phonetically. All right. In the meantime,
There you
we
go.
have a big victory for the house. 1 Corgasm
Let's go.
wins not 1,
Oh.
but 2
Nice.
back-to-back circuit rings on
Heater.
WSOP.
I don't think he won.
The first one wasn't a circuit.
Yeah, it was
First one was
Oh.
a 215 Sunday major, and the second one was a circuit. This one's not a circuit.
Coincidentally, they were the exact same amount of money to first.
Yeah,
See,
they
one
both-
was an online championship. the other was a
Oh,
circuit.
what do you get for an online championship?
Nothing, just the money.
You get nothing.
really?
Yeah. As someone that has won an OC before.
I have won one as well.
Really?
We all have.
You get nothing.
You get
I'm going to keep my
like
fist here until he
$2,500 bucks. I
pounds
think
it.
is what I got.
Why do you label it?
Look to your right, Tortoise. There you go.
I won a trophy. I would want
For an
something.
OC?
Yeah.
Oh, you said you would want
I
one.
would
You-
want something.
You
Yeah.
didn't get
When I-
anything.
When I
It's a
wanted
championship.
for half a second, I was like, "Do I get something for this?" And
Also,
I was like,
you
"No."
want it for 25. Yeah, okay, fine.
The
I'm
circuit-
back
It
on
might-
board.
Yeah, it might not have been 25.
Interim.
but it
The
wasn't. It
circuit
wasn't more than.
main-
It wasn't 5 figures. That's for sure.
Interim.
My best trophy in the house is a Grizzly from a global tournament that was a
Oh, yeah. Those
$33
their trophies are
entry, and I won it for like maybe $2,300. The coolest trophy in the fucking world.
I just thought of this, but we're going to lose you when Katie and Barber come because.
Oh, I'm out of here.
Well, no, you're staying.
No, I'm out of here.
No, you're staying. But I know that you're not going to contribute, so you should intern with Guapo over there.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
I'll do that.
Yeah, I just thought of that now.
Yeah,
You should intern in the interim.
that's a
In the
really,
interim,
that's a really good idea.
you should intern.
Surprised you came up with one.
Okay.
So
While we're on the conversation of ideas, some ideas were had in this high stakes poker hand between Mr. Keating and one Peter yesterday. $1 million pot, no big deal. Two Colossus hands collide. 1 third pair
it played itself, really.
versus 4th pair. Just got all the money in a single race pot.
Yeah.
And everybody in
Do you
here
want
with
sound for this,
premiums.
puppy, or no?
Yeah, we'd like to just run this one and let the audience enjoy.
I'd say that's a lovely top Brittany's wearing, right? Without it
Great
being,
start.
It's just a very nice.
I love that top.
You know, beautiful.
Very classy. Three to the flop. Keating picks up a 7. Spades for Peter. 4,000 from Steve. Steve's at it again, man.
He sure is.
Fun. Peter. 13,000.
This is nice from Peter. If anybody can find a way in from here, it's Keating with just the 7, but just the 7.
He's got some cojones, as we say.
He's got cojones.
Cojones.
He does have a couple of big ones, AJ.
41 dimes.
There you go.
Makes me feel so small.
And again, that's what's kind of fascinating about Keating. Is he tilted, or is this a nice, actually a brilliant identification of what's going on? Because look at the equities, AJ. He has 62%. He knocked Steve out with, you know, he might have this situation read incredibly well. We just kind of can't know, but he is an enigma of the highest order. Meanwhile, Peter's in.
Yeah, he's in.
Bluff again? Toji? No Toji?
No Toji is no bluff.
6 on the turn.
But it really means stealing chickens from your neighbor?
Yeah. The little.
Violates one of the Chinese 10 Commandments?
This should suck Peter in, no?
Definitely Peter not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Keating still kind of representing King 7 suited, Ace 7 suited, or 3 7s. And once again, he does have the best hand. This is interesting.
Yeah, 58 dimes.
Peter could consider semi-bluffing and raising right now, or just calling. Oh, he
Look at
does
this.
do it.
Oh, my word. 175,000.
I'll tell you what, if Keating finds a way to continue here, he's made a believer out of me. I'm already a believer, but
Yeah, this is great. Well,
he's grabbing it. This is really something else from this guy.
Tonight. I don't know. I don't think so.
wow.
Say what you want, but this is somewhat outstanding from Keating. Can he fade it again on the river? Now it's a little interesting because Peter beats something like Jack 10 of spades, but there aren't many hands that he beats. He does go all in.
Oh, wow.
Fast as well.
Yeah.
He knows 4 or 5 key phrases.
Oh, man. If Keating calls here, for me, this is one of the best hands of poker I've ever seen.
Oh, man.
Or one of the worst. That's the thing. It's such a fine line.
Yeah, yeah.
Might be the best or worst played hand of all time.
There you go.
That's odd that he said that.
Great minds think alike.
Still a bit freaky. It is one of those hands, though.
I don't think when his whole cards were 9-7 and diamonds, he thought this pot would be upwards of 675,000.
He might have, but not on the Ace King 7-6-4. But he read Peter as drawy on the flop, I believe. By the way, Peter, a pretty cool customer.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's great.
He's great.
Yeah.
This guy's something else.
Unbelievable.
This guy is a special talent. That was wild.
That was great. I love that. Good stuff.
Even Peter's like, what just happened?
How about that top that Brittany has? That's a
Classy.
I could say it's beautiful without overstepping, right?
Very classy.
Classy top. Yeah, you gotta love the top. What a fucking way to cut into that. Poor Nick.
I know.
There's just no
This
way.
one goes viral, and of course,
Yeah, of course. It's like he's just flowing through, the downtime.
Right.
And it just happens to be the exact starting mark of this viral hand
Yes.
that people outside of the poker world are going to see for sure, because what the fuck is going on here? Unbelievable, man. Keating is the greatest show on the felt currently. He's our He's our St. Louis Rams.
Is he going to play you in heads up?
I don't know. I don't think. He kind of disappeared. It'd be fun, though. Him and I would be fun. Me and Cabrillo would be fun.
Yeah.
Not a lot of other fun ones that I would want to entertain, I don't think. All right, what the fuck is going on in this hand? Who wants to be who?
Well, Landon's head exploded, so he can't
Gangsters
talk.
being gangsters, man. What do you want?
All right.
You got to read.
Well, everybody was in there with premium. Okay, so single raise pot.
Everyone was in there with premium.
I mean, it played
Amen.
itself. Single raise pot. The judge is in there with the 6-8 off and the cutoff. Peter flats the button with 6-3 suited, all pretty standard. And Keating defends the big blind with 9-7 of diamonds. Flop is ace of clubs, king of spades, 7 of spades. Goes check, bet, raise, 3-bet, fold, call. Okay, so now let's start here. How does Keating arrive at this 3-bet? Is the real question.
He probably thinks that in position, Peter has a flush draw, and he's also trying to get the initial better to fold ace-x.
Okay, yeah. I think that's reasonable.
It's a path to polarization.
It is a path to polarization.
Okay.
I don't think he's thinking much about the judge. Judge is just
It's so funny.
Judge is just like airballing here a lot. So I think he thinks he has.
Well, even if he does have value, like he can't get. I think this hand's very different if Judge continues.
Yeah, of course. Oh, of course.
So
if
like
he
I think
continues, the hand's over.
I think ace-x folds for Judge a lot. How can you call? You don't know the guy has a 7.
I mean, you just call.
You don't just call with an ace.
Buddy, you haven't been watching these long enough. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, he wouldn't be happy with
he
an
says
ace.
ace-10, you just fold.
Yeah,
like,
he probably just folds ace-10.
Yeah, you get sandwiched. Like,
right.
So he thinks Peter has a flush draw. 7 beats a flush draw.
Correct. And I think like the fact that Peter flatted pre helps him suss this out a lot. So like he never really has strong hands. He might have like some king 7 suited, but we block that.
Like king 7, ace 7.
Might have a
ace
little
7
bit
off.
of ace 7, but again we block that. The board blocks that too. So there's only one combo of ace 7 suited, only hearts. 2 combos of king 7 suited. We block pocket 7s. So it's like he just doesn't really have any strong hands. But he very easily could have ace x of spades. Ace x being like
At this current time, yes.
ace 2, ace 3, ace 4.
Ace anything.
Ace 6. Yeah, but you know, he's 3-betting. Peter's pretty aggressive. He's not just like flicking it in on the button with like good hands. Like he never has jack 10 of spades here, I don't think. Right? But he might have like jack 8 of spades. He might have like 10, 6 of spades.
Yeah.
Those types of hands. So I actually like, I can kind of get behind the thought process that Alan is utilizing here on the flop. And once you go down that path, the turn's a brick because you're completely discounting the ace and the king altogether, right? Like,
yeah, he might have like ace 6 of spades sometimes, but that's life.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, it's like you're just gonna die versus that hand, and you know there are still some targets here to shoot at that you can get better to fold. Like if Peter ever raises a hand like king 10 with the 10 of spades,
it probably just doesn't happen though from the flop, right?
Maybe not. I mean, he's a little bit of a tricky player. You know, but he's going to fold it to this barrel on the turn, I would assume.
How do we feel about this raise?
I just think this raise is nonsense.
Yeah, he just never has anything.
Like when ace x of spades can easily like raise flop in position and then call the 3-bet. But then when you face a turn bet, you're not really thinking, oh, my ace is good, time to funnel more money in. It's more like, I want to make a flush, so I'm going to call.
Exactly. Like when you face the second barrel, you're thinking like...
And there's no 7-6 here for him.
Right.
Like that can have 2 pairs somehow.
Right.
Because it doesn't raise flop or then peel 3-bet.
Yeah, you're basically just saying to yourself, like, how do I, like, I beat 7s now when I raise. Or I beat king 7. Maybe like Alan's worst holding, right?
Man, I think honestly for Peter, I think I would check river because you just have some showdown versus some spades sometimes.
I don't think that's true. Because
you think you just bet some on the river?
It's half pot on the turn. Like he raises to sides where they only have half pot behind. So when Keating doesn't jam, I don't think he has jack 10 of spades anymore.
Yeah, that's true. He did. Right.
I also don't think he has those pre. He just like squeezes those.
He raised the turn. I wouldn't raise the turn with his hand. I would just try to make my hand.
Of course.
So
of course,
it kind of just everything's kind of nonsense, and it's kind of like what we said yesterday. When it's nonsense, someone either always has value or always has bluffs, and it's way too easy to find spades than it is to find anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
what could he have? What value hand could he have?
As diabolical as it is, like, Keating kind of might just be a low-key gangster genius here.
He's a legend.
Like, it's about being willing to put yourself into the node, right? Because, like, the second that he enters the node on the flop of, I ain't leaving. I ain't leaving. I got a 7 and a 7 beats nothing. I ain't leaving. Right. We're playing a game of chicken here. Once you enter that game,
you have a flush draw, my friend.
Nothing changed. The board remained incredibly static. Once you decide that a 7 was beating that raising range on the flop.
8-5 of spades would have been nasty.
I love Peter's reaction here when he sees his hand.
He just doesn't give a fuck.
Just like, ah.
He truly doesn't give a fuck. He's like, oh my God, you guys. Every game you're invited to.
Yeah, it's cool.
I think the only thing I would have done differently is jam turn, just because.
If you think he has a draw. Like, if you put him on the range that has a lot of equity and a 7 is not doing. You're winning, but it's not great, and you get them to fold.
Yeah, it's that. Well, I don't even know that you get them to fold, but it's that you don't have to make an incorrect river decision.
I mean, if he has jack-eight of spades, he's not just going to put it in.
It's only half pot.
Well, it's 175, and it's 275 over the 175. It's 235 over the 175.
Yeah, but it's into 700 or into 500.
Hey, man, that's nuts.
I mean, he's not going to raise fold or draw. But that's my point, is like, number one, you don't know that he's going to bluff it off. Number two, you don't know what river cards are good. Like, if you have an ace, of course, I would just like call, right? Because like, you're only really susceptible to a spade. You're not really sweating it. If he hits 2 pair on you, God bless.
Isn't that most of his range, though? Most of Peter's range is probably spades.
Yes.
Like
but
all of Peter's
my
range
point
is
my point is that he's going to bluff river with the best hand a lot. And that's a compromising position for you. So if your mindset is like, I'm always going to check fold a spade, I'm always going to check call everything else, you get torched if he doesn't always bluff the bricks. So because he followed through on a river 4, Allen's line is really good. But I would be concerned that like he would just check that card back and then jam like, you know,
only when he has it.
Yeah, like a river 6 or river 3 or you know what I mean? That type of stuff.
So you'd rather just jam the turn. You're value jamming the turn and letting him do what he wants.
Yeah,
if he
because
wants to pay it off.
I mean, if you're playing like with clairvoyance where you believe that at this exact node, at this exact juncture, my 7 is beating whatever flush draw he's funneling money in with.
My 7 is good, damn it.
Right. Like if he turned his cards over, would you rather call or shove?
Shove.
Right, of course. And I guess that's what I'm getting at is like you're playing the hand as though you have perfect information. So there isn't really a need to like protect yourself here and have this call with such a vulnerable weak hand. You know what I mean?
It's all because it's also possible, like you were saying, some overcards come off where Peter might have like queen 5 of spades and then a queen comes and he jams the queen river because he doesn't beat an ace or a king or whatever.
Right.
And now you have to think, oh, I thought he had spades, but now I lose to a queen.
And to your point, if he ever does fold a draw on the turn, that's really fucking good.
Yeah.
You know, we don't really have to win that extra bit some percentage of the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot, but it's not in relation to the pot.
Right.
It's back to the big blinds versus percent pot thing.
It's like, oh, you don't want an extra $250,000? It's like, well, I do, but I also just want the 600,000 that's fucking out there.
That hand's sick. Gotta respect Allen.
How is that pot $1 million?
Respect Allen. Hey man,
they put in a lot of bets.
He said you have flush draw and I have 7, and I know how equity works. And 7 beats flush draw.
It's truly.
I'll see you at the river.
It's truly remarkable.
That was sick. That's why he's invited. That's why he gets the eternal seat.
Yeah. I mean,
play some heads up. Play some heads up.
I'm speechless. Like, honestly, it's so good for the Keating brand. You know, because like it's kind of it's a very thin line between being above the rim and being an absolute
toaster.
Yeah, just an absolute dumpster fire.
You have a 7 in a spot. You clearly don't have to put in any money at all. But instead, you put in all of the money.
I'm with him. There's no fucking way I'm folding that 7 on the flop.
Hey, man.
But like, what are you supposed to do?
3-bet, I guess.
Not
3-bet and then see what the fuck happens next.
You saw. He went from bluffing flop to value betting the turn.
No, bro wasn't bluffing ever.
That's not
value.
I will say
the turn race from Peter probably made his decision easier.
The sick thing is, I think they're only playing like either 200, 400 or 300, 600.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's a lot of money for big blinds. Like it's only the X% pot. Well,
no one understands, man. I wish, God, if these walls could talk. I wish that there was a way that through all my years of being in this realm, there was a way that I could like accurately record the things. I used to journal when I was in Ivy's room because I was like, someday I'm going to want to tell these stories. And then I went on like a really bad downswing and it was just like too overwhelming.
I lost too much money. I'm sad.
I couldn't face myself every day to just be like, oh yeah, there was this quippy anecdote by Baldwin that everybody's going to think is hilarious. No, fuck, I'm down another 100,000 today. Like I can't breathe. But man, like the stories and the things that I've seen, the hands that I've seen, Jesus Christ, man. We were talking about this at the Venetian on Saturday because Bob Bright was there and he was a staple in those games. And it almost always gets brought up when Bob Bright and Jared B are in the same room. But there was a point where they all flew to London to play a private game. And for 4 hours, they were using a short deck. No one knew. No one recognized that there wasn't a fucking 2 through 5 shown in 4 hours. These guys are playing 1K, 2K for 7 figures. And no one at the table recognized that they were using a short deck. Nobody even recognized that the dealer is holding a stub.
Right.
That is missing a quarter of the deck.
Everybody was so fucking happy that they weren't getting dealt deuces through fucking fives that they were just like, this is my type of game.
Just like, I mean, the things that happen, it's a weird like kind of dichotomy in the poker economy, right? Because like you start at low stakes and that's where literally no one knows anything, right? And everybody's just micros, whatever, 1-2 live. Everyone's just kind of, flinging chips. You see the wildest shit on earth, but you chalk it up to everybody being an amateur.
Right.
And then you hit the ground running, right? You start to fucking grind. You just get locked into red chip hell and you're just fucking in 2-5 for ages, what feels like ages. And you're just trying to eke out that hourly and keep increasing it until finally you can take that shot at 510, and then you get to 510 and it's all super pros on their goddamn phones with their headphones in, backpacks on, watching a movie, grinding GTO Wizard in between hands. Like how the fuck am I ever gonna escape? And then you get to 1020 and sometimes they're like, you can play, and then other times they're like, nah, not at this casino, we made it private, so fuck you, you're not good for the game. And now you're just in an impasse and it's very difficult. But when you graduate past that and they open up the glass doors for you and you come strolling in on your happy little ass with your pocket full of chips and you put them down, you're right back at fucking micros, baby.
Yep.
For millions of dollars.
Crazy ass shit again.
Yeah, I will never believe that nobody saw that it was a short deck. There had to be somebody that was just new.
No, there was someone in that game making all the money.
Yeah.
For sure. Whoever the game runner was, whoever fucking orchestrated it, like, I promise you there was somebody in there.
Knew, yeah, dude.
He'd probably just have to remember though that flushes and flushes and full houses are backwards in short deck.
Well, that's only if you're playing by the rules.
Yeah,
Flushes
they were playing Hold'em. They were playing Hold'em with a short deck.
Yeah,
flushes beat full houses in short deck, but that's only if you're actually playing by the rules of short deck. They were just
what I'm saying is that as long as he doesn't get confused, he'd be fine in that game.
Wait, what do you mean?
What I'm saying is like if he's under the impression that he's playing short deck by accident and just thinks.
Oh, you're saying the person who knows.
Correct.
Yeah.
Nah. That person that knew just knew they were playing with a short deck.
Yeah.
Not playing short deck.
Yeah, it's the opposite. You just like pitch flush draws.
Yeah.
While everyone else is chasing. And then you just keep drawing to full houses and fucking them over.
It's fucking beautiful.
I mean, man.
That's the racket we need.
It's incredible. I mean, it's truly incredible. And for all the talk we have about how apocalyptic online poker is, and I don't know what the path forward is and stuff like that. Man, when you unlock the gates of high stakes, like it's not going anywhere. Like the games that Robo builds currently, this being one of them that we just watched, those games are bulletproof. Keating's games, those games are bulletproof. Like I don't know how there's this pocket of wealthy individuals in this world that absolutely love poker as much as they do, but they're there and they have no interest in looking. I was playing an app game yesterday, and my host texts me and he goes, "I don't know if this lineup's that good," and I go, "I understand where you're coming from." On the surface, these guys claim to be professionals. However, I'm playing a 5-handed game where I'm the only person who's ever opened a solver before in my life.
Yeah.
I'm going to take my chances.
Yeah.
And I got buried.
Yep.
I got absolutely fucking buried. But we got out eventually.
That's all that matters,
Eventually. It only took 12
Minimize
hours.
your losses.
12 hours of me sitting there.
You're putting in some long hours.
I don't mean to.
No.
It's.
I was gonna say something to you yesterday as you were
I
just
wasn't
sitting
going
there.
fucking. I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't going anywhere.
That's why I didn't say anything.
The time passed so fast. I mean, it flew by. I thought I put in a 4-hour session, and I looked. I was like, "Holy fuck! I've been playing since noon."
What time did you quit?
2 o'clock. 2 a.m. I'm just like, I can't believe I didn't win all the money. I'm like looking around. It's like, okay, yes, these guys used to be pros, but like 2 of them are sports bettors now. One of them's Oscar. What am I doing? Like, if I can't beat this game, I retire. That's it. We're just done. Like, they're gonna have to cheat me to win. That's all there is to it. Maybe they are. Who knows?
I was gonna say, that seems rather.
The Fedko Zone. Interim.
Interim. You love to see it.
Interim. Man.
You just like to
is that a
shorten
knock at the door?
Who the hell is knocking at the door?
Sounded like.
Who is knocking at the door?
Somebody wanna
Imagine if like
$50.
Katie Stone flew in for the pod, not realizing like we were just taking a call in.
Someone knocked on the
Maybe
door.
somebody parked somewhere or something.
No,
I don't think so.
We're all legit. We're in the driveway.
You just went straight.
Where's the
Your
Fedko
shot.
Zone?
The Fedko Zone.
I'm scared. I don't like it when people knock on the door. It's weird.
I don't know.
It freaks me out.
It's something about Vegas.
Yeah.
Like if I'm home and I get a knock on the door, there's no part of me that's like, oh my God, we're under attack. Also, by the way, like, what is it about our fear center that thinks like, oh, a knock is so threatening?
Right. Like if they weren't they were going to be threatening. It would
The
be,
garage doors are open.
Yeah.
Literally, the garage doors open. They can just
come
walk in and guns
Right.
ablaze and do whatever
Right.
the hell they wanted
Yeah.
to do. But they're, giving us the courtesy knock, and of course we send Conrad down
I think
to
it's just
fall on the
the
sword.
like alarmingness of we're busy doing our own thing, but now there's some new thing that clearly needs to be taken attendance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
It might just be like an Amazon package.
Also-
Sometimes they knock.
who ordered anything?
I don't know.
There's also the time that the poker Karen jumped the fucking
that's
guard
right.
gate.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's a little scary.
I can't
That was.
Can't wait to get out of here.
But they left us balloons,
Yeah,
Balloons
they
and
were.
a card. I mean,
It was very
how threatening
nice.
is that?
Well,
I mean,
felt threatening.
the Joker would do that, wouldn't he? The Joker.
The Joker would. Yeah.
It did feel very threatening.
Conrad's been gone. for a while.
Conrad has been gone for longer.
Way
than,
too long.
Yeah.
Way too long.
So
They
it was
abducted
nice
him.
knowing Conrad.
Oh, let's give a quick shout out here. Congratulations to Garrett Alston. He just had his second baby, Ethan
right.
Jack,
Congratulations.
born on 2/21. I think that's today.
In honor of Rampage.
I didn't even think of that. Imagine.
Ethan, from when Ethan dusted a few $100K to him.
Just imagine if you're Garrett, you just start naming all your kids after fallen soldiers.
Yeah.
Oh man.
He's back.
What was the one guy's name? Tigray or whatever?
Tiger.
Tiger? Yeah, the
Tiger used to play a lot. Melissa liked him.
he was the hustler's situation.
Yeah, FS.
The fake situation.
No,
yeah.
yeah, that's one word for it.
Conrad, what do we got going on down there?
Some dude just trying to get some solar panels up here.
Oh,
Was it Phil?
Phil
Yes.
must have
Was it
said it. Fucking Phil, man.
God,
Jesus
Phil.
Christ.
Yeah.
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 Gotta hack him. All right. Moving to the bigger topic at hand, I guess, for today. Katie Stone put out a couple of tweets dating back to, I think, February 10th. Hold on, I have to pull up my own assets here.
Are they about optional players?
No,
Okay.
but we are definitely gonna give her shit about that one today.
She mentioned it in the tweet.
Did she actually?
Yeah.
She said
Because
yes,
I'm
and
gonna
I'm
say
gonna
it.
say it.
Oh,
Optional players.
Oh no.
What are we fucking
hate to
changing
see it.
derivatives here?
So this one is from Wait, maybe that's the newest one. Let me see.
Is it this one right here, Matt?
No, the other one. The other one was the older one. Oh, okay, yeah. So they're both recent. So it says poker sites, media, content platforms. Here's a tip. Instead of hiring somebody new to poker or new to media and content creation, considering hiring a poker player or somebody who used to play poker and teaching them the necessary skills for the job. Someone who at least has been playing live and or online poker from the 2000s up until now. Maybe somebody looking to leave the game or somebody who's already moved on and into another field. The perspective and knowledge of everything that's happened in the online gaming space from that time and before is so important. And with the propensity for, yes, I'm going to say it, players to be optional, it becomes all the more important to embrace the really good players. Since these platforms are oftentimes the new ones players encounter, having the goods when you need it is a good idea. I think that tweet is pretty well stated. But I do think that I think that a lot of in-house operators are doing this. Like, we know John Andreas is a part of. He was a part of WPT Global Security. I think he might have moved over to Gold.
I believe so.
After the new CEO took over. But that's one example. I know Petrangelo was a part of either their security board or another one at some point in time. I think Fedor has a lot of insight at GG. I believe Alki was working there at one point. We know Nananoku was at ACR. I don't think that this is super new. I will say that when it comes to the media sites and the content platforms, it is a lot more of the young up-and-comers. And I get the point that Katie's trying to make. The history of the game, and I feel like this is a void that we kind of fill a little bit here on the podcast. Like, sometimes it's crazy to me when we tell these stories that people haven't heard, specifically Landon hasn't heard them before, isn't familiar with them. Especially Landon's a pretty well-informed young person, I would say, when it comes to the history of the game. But I think from that vantage point, it is important. But I also understand where the media companies and content creators are coming from, where it's like, you just want to interject youth into the community, and they're willing to grind and hustle. And this isn't new, right? Like, the format's new, the vlogs and the almost like brand building by the individuals, that part's new. But if we go all the way back to when we were coming up in the early 2000s, 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever, it was Christy Arnett, it was Sarah Herring, it was Amanda Leatherman. These girls were all doing the exact same thing, just not in vlog form. They had a cameraman following them, and they were doing it for the actual media outlet instead of just utilizing a phone or whatever vlogging instruments the kids have today. But the point is, everything was being told through the lens of a young 20-something who had access to other young 20-somethings and beyond. And the elder statesmen of the game, if you will, at that point, were pretty out of reach. You didn't just have access to Brunson or Ivy or Helmuth or even Negreanu. Negreanu was maybe more accessible than everybody else, but he was also the youngest of the batch, right? Now, it's like the young people in the game, they have complete access to every single person under the age of 50. And even some that are a guy like Seidel is super approachable. He's always going to be willing to talk. Granted, the super high roller scene may be a little bit less accessible, but it's getting very insulated to the point where we almost live in two worlds. I really do feel like the poker community as a whole is splintering apart, where you have what's perceived to be elite, and that's the super high roller community and online. And then you have literally everything else that covers 95% of the community. Everything from open field events to Texas cash games to Vegas and LA and everything else. But it's the everyman that's out here battling in this space of the 95. So of course, media and content is covering that rather than, this tiny little fraction of our space where the people who've worked the hardest and grinded the toughest are kind of going to battle for large sums of money. They'll get the headlines here and there whenever they rip off a big score, but generally speaking, the focus is going to be on what people can relate to. So I don't really know that there's a lot of misses here. I do agree with her from the operator side, though. I think that every single platform from, like poker operators, online poker operators live, all of them could stand to have a 30-something former poker player in their wheelhouse, kind of building out structures or helping consult. Like, there's a lot of room for consulting. Now, she followed this up and said, I think there will be a mass exodus from poker over the next few years, unlike one we've seen previously. And I can agree with this for a very specific reason. Our generation's aging out.
Yeah.
And we were the boom generation, right? So it's similar to like boomers retiring.
Yeah. If you're not getting a same influx of people, then you're going to see decline.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I think there's going to be a decline. You think, really?
Well, think of it this way. When Brian and I's parents, part of the boomer generation, hit retirement age at 62, so maybe 10 years ago, a little bit less. There was just like a mass exodus out of the workforce from that entire group. Now, became less of a problem because automation, filled the gap. So we didn't need as much work. But people didn't really talk about that either. Like when they were talking about, I guess you don't consider retirees unemployment, but with the fluctuation of the unemployment rate coinciding with boomers retiring, it's very feasible that unemployment will be low because all of a sudden there's a bunch of job openings. I do think you'll see the same thing here in poker because, my generation's hitting 40 now. And if you've made it this far, you're one of the few select survivors, but there's still going to be an attrition rate. Just because you've been playing for 20 years doesn't mean you'll make it 22 or 24 or 26, anything along those lines. So you're going to continue to see this fall off from the largest population. So it's going to be guys that are between 33 and 43 right now. The rubber's meeting the road. Do you want to start a family? Do you want to do something else with your life? Are you making enough money? Have you hit your ceiling? All these questions are going to come to pass. And Landon's generation just isn't really coming in droves. The onboarding process is a lot harder. Getting good is easier, but getting action is harder. You can't really find safe online sites. Live poker is kind of steep, so you can't just start with a free roll or $50 or whatever. She said the really cool thing about this is that many industries and businesses will be able to fair catch these highly valuable brains. Putting it out there now that the nonprofit realm would be absolutely revolutionized if you inserted a bunch of poker players into key roles around the world. Thoughts on this, Andrew Barber? You were really the first one among us all those years ago to see the transitional qualities and to read the room correctly with regard to poker's viability in general. Interested to hear your thoughts about numbers of full-time and part-time pros over the next few years. And that basically led us to this point where we have our two guests calling in, Barber and Katie. We're going to let you guys pick up the conversation here. How are you?
Hey, Katie.
Hey, how are you guys? It's been a while.
Look at you, so professional.
Well, it's either my office or screaming child and husband in the background. So you take your.
Yeah, we'll go with the with the fresh white Fox 26 background. Catch us up real quickly before we bring Barber in for this convo. What have you been doing since I guess you were last grinding?
My mom passed away in early 2020. And so she was a very influential broadcaster and philanthropist here in Houston, as you know. And so over the next 2 years, I kind of split my time between, playing online, New Jersey, grinding, playing live, doing commentary, et cetera, and Houston, because I had to, step into that role. Her organization and that her philanthropy side is a pretty prominent part of the DNA of this city, and literally feeds millions of people every year. And so it was a really important mission and legacy to keep going. And so I had a big decision to make. And so I pretty much just completely transitioned into my mother's role here in Houston and fundraising and broadcasting. And so, you know, when I talk about this stuff, I'm kind of like I'm like converted, you know, I'm like reformed, you know, I'm like, I'm living it, I'm breathing it. I'm not just, you know, talking about it now. I'm kind of, you know, zoomed out a little bit from poker. It's not my income. I don't have any income from poker anymore. For the last, I guess, coming up on 3 years. And so, you know, as I've progressed in my own, you know, new career, which is, you know, philanthropy and broadcasting, I, you know, kind of poke in and see what's going on in my beloved poker world. And, you know, you help keep me updated. And so when I see, you know, issues and when I see things that make sense, when I see pieces that are moving and I see things that like, oh, I can put them together. I know what's going on here. You know, I have some experience that might be able to, you know, help clarify this or translate it or make it a little bit more palatable. You know, that's kind of what I do. And I just kind of jump in and then, you know, Andrew Barber was really, I mean, it was probably like 10 years ago at this point. I don't know, like where he was really the first one to say, look, guys, like, you know, poker is not going to be here forever. It's not really, you know, that viable. It's not safe. You're not safe. You know, the game is going to change, you know, and at the same time, you know, start looking for other ways to develop these other skill sets that you're using in poker that could potentially be transitional into other areas. And I remember when he said that, I'm like, what an asshole. Like,
you hear that, Barber?
Shit.
You don't know shit about shit.
I was like, he doesn't know.
I get that a lot.
Well, and you know, and I'm sure a lot of people are literally listening to me right now and saying the exact same thing, you know, and so it's the perspective and the experience and the maturity and the aging, you know, and I think it's a good thing that we're all, you know, in our 40s now because we have, you know, we've all grown up in this game and we've all had these independent, you know, experiences and platforms and revelations and you know, we all love it. We want it to survive. But Andrew was really kind of the first one, at least for me in my poker career, to really just truly see the writing on the wall. And as much as I, you know, kicked and screamed and you know, denied it, you know, I think we're just at a point now where we can't really deny it, but let's maybe see what else there is. You know, let's maybe just start providing this, you know, bringing up this conversation because, you know, and I don't want to like have this conversation take a different turn, but, you know, I've been around long enough where poker people not having a job can cause some really bad things to happen.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's no security in this space. That's for certain. No one likes the adult in the room. Barber, let's lecture Landon on why he's drawn dead in life.
You've done this before, though.
No, yeah, I think Landon's in a good spot. You know, you have your, you know, in a large enough group of people, you're going to have like one person that escapes. You know, Berkey, that was you with Leech, is it Leechburg?
Oh yeah,
mm-hmm. Very nice.
Leechburg. I still haven't seen it on a map yet, so I'm not convinced it actually.
You
exists.
blink and you'll miss it. You really, you really got to zoom in.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that but like the percentages are low, and I think that's maybe a good thing to start with. First of all, I want to say thank you to Katie. Like that's far too kind. I mean, I'm not the first person, and I actually was speaking to a friend of mine who joined me in that effort. Former PLO player Corey Kilpatrick, who has moved on to coding and is now just an absolute wizard and is at actually attending like a coding boot camp in Austin, Texas right now that is like extremely rigorous and is promising ridiculous salaries upon completion. So I think he and I both, you know, maybe we're pursuing this because we needed to hear it ourselves. And so we figured, let's deliver this message to the masses and maybe we'll hear it in the process of delivering the message. But I'm reminded of when I was growing up, I was obsessed with basketball. And I got this book that was that told me the odds of making it into the NBA, and like assuming you are a starter on your high school varsity team, it's 1 in 100,000. And I think that was an incredibly important stat for me, because I think you can delude yourself into thinking that things are going to work. And I see the same level of delusion, I think, in pro poker players, that this money tree will always bear fruit, that you will always be superior to the competition. I just was reading an academic paper last night that I was curious what the state of academic research into poker was. And there was a survey of asking poker pros whether or not they thought they were better than the average poker pro, and 88% thought they were better than average.
That sounds right.
Mathematically impossible.
That's why this game persists, though.
Exactly. Well, and certainly for tournament poker more than anything, where like you can, variance can pump up your ego. And so it's really mass weaknesses. So I think it's the first challenge is getting people to realize that whatever your earnings were in the years past, like past performance is not a predictor of future results.
Thank you.
And I actually think
that's my saying.
He just doesn't apply it correctly ever.
I always apply it correctly. What are you talking about?
Go on.
But I think as like a baseline, like you should assume your earn is going to drop every single year. Like you need something unusual to happen. Like you need a massive injection capital, access to a game you couldn't play in before.
Mm-hmm. Because most people who are properly rolled should be able to play like all the stakes they want to play. It's not like, oh man, if I could, climb from 5.10 to 10.25, my hourly is going to be so much higher. It's like, no, not really. Cause like the jumps in hourlies they don't correlate to the stakes. Like if you jump twice the stakes, you're not going to have twice the hourly. Right.
You might have 1.2 or 1.3 the hourly or something like that, with more variance. So I think that you should assume that like your earnings are probably going to decrease over time. There's all the concerns about trying to find a straight game. I mean, it's kind of the point where like you can't even be confident in live. And I don't want to be like a conspiracy theorist here, but like if you're trying to get private action, which is like some of the best action you can get these days, like you can't be 100% sure that that's going to be on the up and up. I was just reading a story on Twitter about someone playing a game in Texas, I think. Yeah.
The 1025 game,
exactly.
I can't remember where it was, but basically it was a single game that was ran a few times a week. Like nobody even really knew how this card house was staying open. It was just running this private game, and the owner was obviously marking cards.
Yeah, I mean, I feel fortunate that I don't have to wrestle with this, and I really do have sympathy for people who have been in the game a long time, who feel like they don't have a great alternative. But I think that the point I'm trying to emphasize, and I've tried to emphasize, over the last 10 years or so, it feels like, is that you should be planting seeds left and right. You should be developing some soft and hard skills. Poker already equips you for success in a variety of domains, but you do have to make a conscious effort to invest time and energy in exploration into those other things. But like for anyone who's like struggling or like they're unsure, like you can have the confidence. There's such a laundry list of pros that have successfully transitioned and have done fantastic things. I mean, Brian Tate with Overnight Oats, Cole South with his jiu-jitsu stuff. I mean, Galfon probably is doing better from non-poker income than poker income. Maybe the same is true of Polk. Like, I mean, I think a lot of people who, are still connected to poker have figured out how to generate income that is not tied to their poker results. Another one that I would promote is like trading. There's probably been, I don't know, a few dozen poker players that have had success in trading.
Yeah, Jason Les, Jason Strauss, Dan O'Brien, David Benefield.
Totally.
Selps, yeah.
I mean, Strasser starting his own hedge fund is like crazy. I mean, That's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that there is this belief that if I leave poker, I'm not going to have the same hourly, the same annual income, and you may take a hit at first, but I promise you that the ceiling is so much higher.
Yeah, I don't think I really don't think it boils down to income. I mean, I hear you, and I know that's a bit of a hurdle because the carrot on the string to chase is relatively high compared to normies. You can easily make 6 figures in this game, and if you're very good and have access, you can easily make 7. But I think a lot of people would be happy to do it for $40K a year also, just because the freedom and the non-traditional path is so appealing. And I think that's the hurdle. And maybe I'm projecting a little bit because speaking from my own point of view, like that becomes a big challenge of the idea of working for someone else. I will say that starting a business was a huge plus, and understanding the difference between working for yourself and working for somebody else is worth a lot. But I think a lot of people just get stuck on the idea of, okay, well, if I make this transition, what does that do to my overall lifestyle? Not monetarily speaking, but like, how does this affect my time?
Well, let me push back on this, because I think this idea that poker players are somehow freer than the rest of the world is like complete bullshit. Because I convinced myself that I was free playing poker, but you better believe, like, if I knew of a really good game, like if there was a whale in town, I had to drop everything to go play in that game.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to turn that game down. I mean, and that's how every poker player designs their life. Like you're not going to skip out on poker players. So the World Series schedule's out. Like no one's skipping the World Series because
but they truly love it.
They live.
Yeah, also, I just want to add too, like Andrew, like that's actually a very desirable trait to have in business and in other industry, right? Like, I mean, this is, the ability to,
Did you freeze? I think we lost her. Oh, okay, we lost her. Carrying on with that though, I would say that like generally, whether it's a delusion or not, like we love the fucking game and the gamble. You know what I mean? Even if like that's not really what you signed up for, everybody craves security, everybody craves stability, and they want to have their cake and eat it too, so to speak. But I think like, at least from my perspective, it's like, yeah, you are very much kind of restricted to what you could do with your hours if you care at all about making your bottom line. But at the same time, like, what else would you rather be doing with your time? Like right now, I've had a lot of time off. The games are kind of dead and I don't know what to do, and I'm seeking action elsewhere. And I don't need to play. I just put in a 28-hour session. I'm texting my friends going, what the fuck am I doing? This game's not big. This game's not that great. I don't need to be here. And I just put in an overnight session. Why? Because like, I don't know what the fuck else to do with my time. This is insanity. And I worry that to some degree we're kind of afflicted with this gambler's brain, gambler's rot, if you will, where like nothing else can really stimulate you the same way as living on the edge as a poker player.
I think you make a good point. I definitely want to respond to that, but Katie, I think, was mid-thought when she got disconnected.
Oh, yeah, sorry. My computer shut down. I had to run and plug it in. Sorry about that. No, what I was just going to say was like a successful poker player, like to your point, Andrew, like, your time is not very free, right? Because as a successful poker player, you're doing the things that you need to be doing in order to be successful. And so you are the only person who is responsible for managing your time, whether it's playing a game, whether it's working on your game, whether it's going to the gym outside or whatever. And the ability to manage that and consistently do that, where all of those things you're doing are aligned with your goal of being a better poker player and putting in the time that you need to be successful, that trait is worth so much in rest of world, whether you're working for somebody or whether you're working for anybody else. Like that trait in and of itself may be one of the most desirable and hard to come by traits, right? Because poker really instills this ability to be totally like on your own, right? It's kind of a lonely endeavor, and so if you're able to work on your own and take initiative and stay on task and complete tasks and get things done, even if you're working for somebody, you're going to rise to the top. And then even if you're starting a new business, you have a good chance of being successful.
Yeah, I think therein lies the problem, though. Is like I was like a late in life. I had a late in life diagnosis of ADHD, and it explains so much. It explained like why big projects and task prioritization and organization, executive functioning were problems for me. And then I realized like that was probably what was attracting about poker, is that it hid all these weaknesses. Like I didn't have to answer to someone. I didn't have to manage a to-do list. And I think this connects with Matt's point. I don't know if you heard it, but he was saying that poker is such an easy activity because you fill all your idle time. And I think that like we do have a problem as a society. I think about cell phones a lot in this context, that we are all kind of like trying to fill the void. And poker is one of those things that fills the void that also has like a positive expectation. You know, it can be the only profitable addiction you can have. And so I think that there's like all sorts of things that are complicated here. And I think I take your point largely, Matt, that it's not about the income, but I do hear people say that they have income concerns. So I want to address that.
Yeah. That's very fair.
But I understand. I think that what you're saying is probably more of a factor, which is that people don't know what to do with themselves. And poker simplifies things, and it's like a great way to press pause on growing up and figuring your shit out, and figuring out like what life's meaning is, what your purpose is, where are your skills, how can you, especially
if you're doing reasonably well.
Yeah, and then you're anchored to that. Like the worst thing you can do is run hot at the beginning of a poker career. It's going to completely fuck you up.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do is run bad early. No, I really wanted to do a research project in grad school where I was going to scrape Hendon Mob, and to see if like people overstayed their welcome in poker if they banked early on, and whether or not people who ran bad at the beginning of their careers actually had more longevity because they were forced to like really work on building their skills as they were getting through that rough patch. But yeah, no, I think there's so many biases that I think poker players have to work on. And I think if you've done any work on your mental game or tilt, like you've had to address some of them. But poker players are really messed up about money. I think they're really messed up about the career or their idle time, and using poker to kind of fill a void, or if you're like not processing emotions well, like if you're sad, you're going to go play. If you're excited, you're going to go play. There's all these excuses you can come up with. And it does delay that time that is essential, where you sit with yourself quietly and think, why the fuck am I on this planet?
Yeah, I think that poker feels, I think it kind of replaces a lot of things. Like it replaces hobbies, it replaces occupation, it numbs or
Social
deadens. Life. Yeah, social life, 100%. It numbs or deadens emotions. So for me, it becomes very difficult to deprogram these types of things. And I agree with your overarching point for both of you, that the skill sets you acquire as a poker player lend themselves to real world. I just struggle to see where the incentives align, right? The only incentive crossover here is money. And the problem is that when you're transitioning, you're not going to have a pile of money thrown at you. Whereas in poker, you always have the aspirations to making a lot. And then additionally, in poker, you have like clear guidance. Like we didn't have this before. And maybe this is another reason why people our age are so hesitant to leave, because we spent a decade plus carving our own path. Like we were trailblazers pre-solver. And now when we finally get to a point where you feel like a decent sense of self as far as confidence goes in like what you're doing, how you're making money, the kind of sky starts to fall. And it's like, yeah, actually, you're not going to make as much as you had hoped. If you transition into something else, like nobody wants to be 40 trailblazing again. I mean, actually, I kind of do. That sounds exciting, but I'm in a very privileged position. I did well in my career here. So like I have the freedom to do whatever I want and not suffer financially. But for the guy who's been like humping mid stakes for the majority of his career, has no money saved, has been living off of like a 50 or 60K salary for the last better part of a decade, it's going to be really difficult to just like pick up coding and hope at 42 that you're going to get picked up by, you know, somebody who needs you. I think like transitioning into freelance work or consulting makes a lot more sense. But the problem as I see it anyway, is I don't know how we place those people. You know, like consulting is not exactly an easy thing to get hired for, especially with no experience.
Well, there's tons of gaming companies all over the world, right?
Yeah.
Like they all need customer support people. They all have back end, management. You know, I'm sure there's even land-based opportunities too. You know,
so this kind of speaks to your tweet a little bit. Can you elaborate, like where you were headed, like what direction you were kind of leaning into when you put that out?
Which one? The one about hiring from within?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we're in kind of a very funky time in poker right now. And it's funky all over. It's live is weird. Online is weird. The overall direction of poker is a little weird. And so there's a lot of players in the space, and there's a lot of kind of fragmented direction and platforms. And so, you know, the need for some kind of perspective and consistency, I think, just needs to really still be present in our minds, but also understanding that, you know, for the game to grow, in my point of view, it needs to be changed at every level. And that kind of starts, how is poker viewed the most, you know, publicly? Is it broadcast? Is it from, you know, poker media? Is it, live reporting? Is it the online sites and their ambassadors? Is it the, you know, the poker publications? You know, how are people, you know, non-poker players, optional poker players, how are they getting their information about the game? What is the face that the industry is putting on to pitch new players? And if we know that the people who are responsible for pitching that stuff are, you know, maybe not poker people, maybe they're new, like, you know, a lot of the younger content creators, and that's fine. There's a space for them, but there's also a really important consideration to be made for, you know, people who have been in the industry and could be a really amazing asset to the team that provides the context that is so necessary going forward. And then it kind of, you know, kills two birds, because you're employing poker players that may want to exit the industry or look at their other options. I mean, you know, the skill set of a poker player is not limited to poker. I mean, if you want to stick with gaming, there are opportunities worldwide that you can, you know, train for online and potentially even move somewhere. You know, that's just if you want to stay in gaming, right? But there's other industries and other areas. You know, I mentioned nonprofit. Just because, you know, that's my game now. That's my new game now, and it's just like poker. It's a lot of numbers, you know, a lot of figuring out how to get the high score, right? So we as poker players we have a few reps in that area, you know, trying to get the high score, trying to, you know, win the leaderboard, you know. That pretty much is fundraising. That's nonprofit, you know, finding the pockets of value, you know, finding the areas that are untapped, finding out where you are going wrong, where you're dedicating resources or time or energy or money or pots lost or big blinds lost when you shouldn't be, how to adjust, you know. This independent drive to succeed in poker, and not only succeed, but to survive, is something, and Andrew, you know, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this, but this is something that I see isn't always present in every pool of people, right? So,
But that's an incentive issue, right? Like, you're just not going to see that with employees. You're not going to see that with salary employees. You're not going to see that with hourly employees ever, because they have no incentive to be, you know what I mean? Their livelihood isn't dedicated on it. They clock in, they clock out. And I don't think that would be any different if you hired poker players. To your point, I think that, like, you know, when it comes to philanthropy or fundraising or whatever the case may be, and some of these other industries within the gaming space, you're right that we have skill sets there. But I think that, like, you know, you're talking like 1 in 1,000 will pursue that path, and some have. You know, Kenny Hallert being a good example of a player who's also a TD. Luke Stoudemire, also another good example, former player who became the tournament guy who did the structures for Stars, eventually went on to BetMGM, and he's floating all around the space now. And then, like, Igor and Liv, I think, are the best examples of people who transitioned out into effective altruism. They helped start Reg, which has since folded, but in the midst of all that, somehow Igor's working for Elon Musk, and you know, that's the extreme win. That's what the example looks like when you win. But the general aggregate, like, if we had 10,000 poker players who wanted to leave an exodus and they were looking for paths out, I don't think that any of this is really viable for most, if any of them, right? You need a high profile. You need to get on somebody's radar. You need to be able to wow somebody with a huge gap in your resume. I think more generally speaking, like, the data science space lends itself to professional poker players. But again, that's a big transition, right? Like, you have to do what Barber did and dedicate yourself to years of schooling, or pursue a degree, or at least pursue networking within that industry, where maybe they'll forego the fact that you don't have a degree because you're so sharp with numbers. Feel free to add, either one of you.
I mean, I think you might be putting the cart before the horse. So, like, I wouldn't worry myself about the success rate in any given profession. Like you said, want something 1 in 1,000, but like there's 1,000+ opportunities. So I wouldn't worry about that. I think, like, when I've offered guidance to people who have wanted to leave, I always start people with, like, what do you like to do in your free time? Where are you truly better than average, or like exceptional? And how could those skills be well aligned to the job? When I lost my engineering job when I moved out to California in 2007, and lost it due to the recession, I read this book, What Color is Your Parachute?, which is like the most commonly recommended book for people who are trying to figure out what they want to do with their life. And I recommend that to people who are, like, going through that soul searching. But I think, as much as you can frame this as an exciting time to try things, and just consider, like, no, every path is possible, and talk to people. Like, I would imagine, like, at one point in time when I was really devoted to, creating resources for people who wanted to leave poker, it was like, it wouldn't it be awesome if we had, like, a directory of every person that's ever left, which is, again, a very long list of people who've been very successful. And I was just reading before this podcast, a 2+2 thread of people who successfully transitioned, and, like, it was success story after success story after success story. People who do well in poker, they are exceptional people generally, and they will find success wherever they go next. It almost doesn't matter where they're going to land, because they're going to see all the edges. They're going to be, just through good fortune and genes, they're going to be sharper than their peers, and they're going to find success. And so I'm not worried about the specific path they choose, just that they choose something, they put themselves out there, they explore and then exploit. And I think all this stuff can come naturally if you can. I mean, I'm embarrassed that I didn't consider this point until you brought it up, which is, like, there's probably a lot of psychology, and I mean, every poker player needs a therapist, but I think in this particular case, leaving poker is probably more of a difficult mental hurdle than a logistical one.
Yeah, I think that's very accurate. And yeah, I think your point is very well taken. People who are driven to leave or driven to do something else will find the way. I don't know. Maybe my brain's just like wired a little bit differently, but like to me, it's the onboarding process that fatigues people and keeps them in status quo. And I'm not just speaking about poker players at this point. I'm talking about like general populace and for any endeavor, whether you're talking about trying to get into shape, trying to change careers, trying to start a relationship, whatever it is, it's the whole exhausting aspect of trying to onboard the new thing.
Starting a car,
getting your driver's license, learning how to drive,
finding a title
to the car. Like if there's a simpler way to onboard these things, and this is kind of like the takeaway that I got from your tweets, Katie, is that the real opportunity here is creating the funnel, being the third party that networks for these people, that creates the onboarding process, that places them. I don't want to do this, obviously. I don't think I'm very well equipped for it, but I think it does kind of speak to both of your passions, where it's kind of like, look, we have this curated community of high intellectual people that are good with numbers, good at problem solving, good at risk assessment and risk management, and they're all floundering. They're all floundering because they're competing against one another in a space where if they all become the best at what they do, everybody breaks even. So to me, like the real opportunity here is creating some sort of third-party company that is tapped into these other spaces that can help somebody create their own business, can help somebody pursue a path in data science, can help somebody get placed in some other skill set or some other realm that they're looking to access. I think if anything, what's become very abundantly clear to me in 20 plus years of this game is that network is everything. And people would pay a lot of money for a well-curated network. So I don't know, maybe I'm just kind of like spouting a lot of hot air here, but that to me seems like the real crux of the problem and the potential solution.
I think the network is secondary. I think the primary issue is you have to want it. And the thing is, like, I've thought often about, I'll create a website and I'll create a directory and I'll, make my calendar available for people who want. And the thing is, reducing the frictions to talking to me has only led to me having more conversations that don't go anywhere. And so I actually think there might be value in having it be like, I don't know if you've ever done this, Matt, but like when people ask me for poker coaching over the last 20 years, I hand them Sclancy's Theory of Poker, and only after they've completed that book will I talk to them. Do you know how many people that filters out? It filters out 95% of people right then and there.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I think there's value in filters like that, and I'm torn between wanting to help a lot of people and not wanting people to waste my time. And I've had my time wasted a lot. So I want people to get motivated. I want to try to light the fire under their ass. I actually think sticking around in poker is actually the mediocre play, like generally speaking, unless you're doing amazingly well. But I think that you should not, there used to be pride associated with staying in poker longer while people left. And the thing is, like, the people who left early they have the last laugh. And the people that are sticking around the longest, who are, grinding themselves, to the point where they're, completely devoid of hope. I mean, I hate to paint a dark picture, but I am trying to motivate people. Like, I think that's too late. And I think you need to be realistic about what are your, what are the potential outcomes? Like, what's the likely scenario in the next few years? I think that me and others have painted kind of a darker picture, and looking for the exits and thinking about some of the stuff, like, what am I good at? What do I like to do? What could I see myself doing? Things like that. I will always be a resource for people who want to talk. But I got to say, the last few conversations I've had on this topic have gone absolutely nowhere, and it was a waste of my time. So that's unfortunately coloring a little bit of how I see this now.
Yeah, I think.
Tough.
Go ahead, Katie.
Sorry, no. Oh, well, I was just going to say, like, it's tough too, because there's a few things that are not really in alignment, right? Like, you you want to put this message out to people that there's this opportunity for them to, you know, transition into a different industry, but the poker industry really isn't going to help you do that, right? Because they're not trying to say that, oh, this is a dying industry, right? Like if we're talking about content creators, platforms, media, anything like that, to help promote a message that, like, maybe of hope, even, you know, that something is possible for them. But it sure would help, like, because your effort, Andrew, has just been pretty singular, like on Twitter for the last 10 years, just saying like, hey, I'm here, my DMs are open. There's nothing that is a formal structure, like Berkey is saying, that can like help these people out and into something else. But I think what can start, though, is, and I've mentioned this a few other times in a few other tweets, is just the overall acceptance and highlighting of the other skill sets. So, you know, if somebody isn't aware that they have a skill set that would transition into another industry, you know, maybe all of those platforms I just mentioned that are not in alignment with treating poker as a dying industry, but maybe you solve two things at the same time by providing a content opportunity, or, you know, creating something that highlights, you know, somebody like Liv, or somebody, you know, like Cole, or somebody, you know, doing these positive things in other areas, essentially proving that the skill set does transfer. And so you have the benefit of promoting a positive message of transitioning out while still overall, you know, having a positive picture of the game and its players and individuals painted at the same time. I see that missing.
Yeah.
You know, there could be a concerted effort in the overall crafting of that message, but like I said, it's out of alignment with the platforms because they're not interested in showing all of the failures.
I think that highlights a really big sore spot in the industry that I personally recognize that really frustrates me. If you compare it to like chess, there's no collaboration in poker whatsoever. And the truth of the matter is, like, again, there's a big opportunity here in my opinion, but we have a lot of intellectual people, but everybody's at odds with one another. Everybody's fighting, everybody is competing, everybody wants to be the big dog in the room, and nobody really wants to listen to any inside or outside voices. And the truth of the matter is, like, this industry would benefit greatly from brain trusts. This industry would benefit greatly from a lot more business construction within the space. There's opportunities on the media side. There's opportunity on the operator side. There's opportunity on the, I think maybe a lot less so, especially because this tends to get more saturated, but there's obviously always opportunity on the financing side. There's opportunity on the educational side, even though I think the training space is one that is shrinking. There's still always going to be some level of opportunity there. And we just don't really do anything to take our best and brightest and, you know, mash it all together, right? Like, for all of the flack that GTO Wizards currently getting, I think that they're the only company within the industry right now that is strictly employing poker players. I shouldn't say that. They obviously have non-poker players as well, like their developers and whatnot. But most of their hires, top to bottom, are industry people. And, you know, they're just going to continue to grow and expand and pull in more people into that umbrella. And so it's no shock that they're the biggest company in the space. It's no shock that despite the fact that their product is maybe being mishandled and misused in online games, the majority of the community wholeheartedly and loudly supports them. They're doing the thing that nobody else in this space seems to want to do, and that's work together. And the only place we see any level of collaboration is at the vlogging space, so the content creator space, and then Wizard. And like, that's it. Everything else is dog eat dog. Everything else is my stream versus your stream. You know, my training site versus your training site. Nobody, like, there's imagine if Imagine like what chess would look like if none of the best and brightest ever collaborated with one another. Like, just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? But in this space, you're really never going to see a world where like Gelfond, Ike, Seaver, Polk, whoever you want to rattle off, that like a dozen of the best and brightest are all just like working hand in hand on something, right? On something to help grow the industry, or even just grow something that they're passionate about, right? Like when you look at Run It Once Poker, for example, Gelfond took that endeavor on himself. There wasn't like a dozen. That's why Full Tilt succeeded. And not to say that's why Run It Once failed. It was a totally different climate. But Full Tilt was like the last example of just a dozen pros saying like, we have this idea. We think it's great. We should all invest in it. We should go forward. And they were used to doing that because the community was so small and so tight niched, right? When Andy Bill came into town, all the games shut down. Everybody just invested. It was like, okay, who are we going to get to play? We're going to get this lineup of 6. We think they're the best at these games, or limit hold'em, whatever it was that they were playing. And the other 100 of us are just going to buy shares. And now we just have stock in the in the corporation. Yeah. And that's that, we'll never see that again. And I don't know
Matt,
why.
I've heard you express this viewpoint a few times, and we've talked about Prisoner's Dilemma before, but like, I got to ask, don't you think that poker is a lot like a Prisoner's Dilemma, and we're just stuck in the defect node? Like that's what I think, that because every time there is a lamenting of the lack of cooperation, I think of, there's not a summer that's gone by in the last 10 summers where people say, I'm upset about the rake, we should have a boycott. And I laugh and I say, you idiot, good luck trying to arrange a boycott. Because as soon as you start to get enough people to skip the tournament, now it's the softest tournament of the summer. Now everyone's going to be a scab and hop back in the tournament. And this just happens over and over again because the poker is zero sum. Like the only space you mentioned, I think, that isn't zero sum is maybe the content creation, because you're trying to grow and pull new people in. But I think that poker doesn't really have that opportunity as much. So I think that,
I think that's only true within the framework of the game, though, right? Like, what does it matter? Like, nothing about the training space is zero sum, for example. Nothing about the media space is zero sum, right? Like, and I'm not saying that this is even a good idea, but like, for example, PokerGo, Katz creates this all-encompassing umbrella of poker media, poker content, poker creation, right? Who's underneath it? Name the people in the industry that are helping prop that up. There just isn't anybody, right? He took some former poker players and hired them, but there's no pulling in of all the other people that are creating content, right? Which is exactly what you need if you're going to be the quote unquote golf channel of poker, right? Like, why wouldn't you have an entire department of vloggers? Why wouldn't you have an entire department of podcasts? Why wouldn't you corner this aspect of the industry? Same thing with like the poker media sites, right? Like Org, Poker News, whatever. There's so many layers you could build to these media where you are just working in partnership with Brad Owen, with Joey Ingram, with us as a podcast, whatever. Like, and now you're upselling these additional these additional like add-ons to the poker tour events that you are covering. Imagine having an on-site podcast 5 days a week. Like, that's something that just doesn't exist in the space, and it seems like it would come with a lot of benefit. But this is all just like a non-starter, because one, nobody pays, and that's going to be the ultimate incentive for people to work together, is that there's some sort of bottom line to collect. And then two, the conversation's never really breached because everybody just wants to be an individual, because that's what they're so accustomed to within the game itself. It's like, well, if I'm partnering with somebody else, then I'm giving something up too much, and I think I can do this better on my own. The lone wolf mentality that poker breeds is where I think all of this ultimately fails, and why people don't successfully transition out often enough.
Go ahead.
Well, I just have a question. Do you think that, like, something that also doesn't exist in the space that could potentially do what you're saying? Like, do you think that, so all of these areas in the space, they're all self-serving, right? Like they all exist to make money, right? Like the poker media has to have advertisers in order to pay their people. The sites need players and sponsors and stuff like that. Their goals are really clear. Like when we see content coming out, we kind of understand like where it's coming from, which indirectly kind of promotes this individualistic approach, I think. But what is missing is there's no like overarching like clearinghouse, so to speak, right? So like we don't have in poker, for example, like a PBS model.
Right.
Right. And like this could possibly solve a lot of that. You have a independent clearinghouse platform, structure, website, app, whatever, that is a nonprofit model that is funded by donations. This is PBS. There are many models like this across the country, independent broadcast orgs.
Yeah, but I think like with them, it's easy to fundraise because they're built for a good cause. It's very difficult to fundraise
there's so many rich poker players and so many like businessmen that throwing $100K towards something that similar to what GTO Wizard is doing, just hire all. I didn't know they were doing that, by the way. That's brilliant. But like hire a bunch of poker players, get a handful of your friends, Berkey, get all these guys that play these games for millions of dollars, and just be like, yo, like you do you want the game, you want the industry to continue to make progress and survive? Donating $50K or $100K is a drop in the bucket for these guys because poker is entertainment.
Katie, you guys are both describing what Kerry Katz did. he spent a boatload of money. I don't think he's ever turned a profit. This is his little hobby horse.
Yeah.
He hired his friends. He's just torching money left and right. I think last time I was on the pod, Berkey, we were talking about how if crypto hadn't mooned, like poker would probably be in a far worse spot today.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think about what if PokerGo had never come around, we would be in a far worse spot.
Yeah.
Like poker
I'm not so sure.
So...
I'm not convinced about that.
Oh, really? Okay. I just think poker has run so pure in terms of online before Black Friday, crypto mooning, COVID in the financial stimulus really propped up online games. I think that PokerGo has had some marginal impact, but like poker has run good at every turn, and I think it can't run good anymore. I don't know what the next thing that's going to be beneficial for the game is going to be. That's what I think. That's why I have the viewpoint that I have, is that there's no massive influx that's going to happen. There's not going to be an influx of whales. There's not going to be an influx of capital. There's never going to be substantial sponsorships. We're not going to have an epic poker league. There's never going to be national legalized poker. There's just all these strikes against it, and no more opportunities to quote unquote bink that will keep the game afloat. And PokerGo is like basically describing like, hey, I wish some philanthropist would come along and give us a bunch of money to try to grow the game. And he's basically done that. And so I guess I don't know. I don't know what more could be expected.
Well, it's not like it's an entertainment platform, right? Like at its root, right? And so it's it's a subscription model. It serves the.
Yeah, I think it's too small, too insulated. Personally, I think that they could have.
He should have spent more.
No, not too small. Like dollar wise, obviously, like the studio's amazing. I mean, too small is in scope. The people that the audience gets familiar with is like by the dozens, and poker's much bigger than that. I think that like the fact that it's positioned behind a paywall, though may be necessary, There's a lot of stuff that you could be doing for free. They just started to build their YouTube in the last like 2 years. Again, they also zapped up all of the licenses. Like that was his big play, was to buy all of the licenses. So Poker After Dark. Yeah, it was. But it also positioned now our biggest event behind a paywall. So now all of a sudden the World Series main event isn't accessible to the average human any longer. So like there's good and bad. And I guess my bigger gripe here is not that they failed, but it's more so that they could be much, much broader. Like, how are they not, and I don't know that this would come at a great cost or a small cost or whatever, but like, how does PokerGo not just have the license for Poker News or Poker.org, or, you know what I mean? Like, how do they not have a media outlet company working underneath them? That's such a simple, seemingly sharp marketing play, where now they're pulling in more advertisers. They're able to actually access poker from the ground up instead of from the top down. You know, I don't want to criticize their business model or anything, but like, to me, that's what the industry lacks. There's no ESPN. PokerGo is not ESPN. PokerGo is like more so, I don't even know what to compare it to in general. MLB Network, maybe, where you have to buy a subscription, you get to watch games. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not really like an overarching clearinghouse, because they have a subscription model. Like, they want to sell a product, they want you to buy their content, you know, like,
and that could be an arm of it, but it being the center focus of it kind of like deludes what the opportunity is, I think.
Is it just possible? Like, I mean, I feel like I have not made strong arguments here, but is it just possible that this is the best it's going to be? Like, we can't do better than this?
Yeah. Yeah,
because that's what I think is the case. I think the incentives have never been good. I've heard, as long as I've been in the game, that products don't want to be associated with poker. That's why you get terrible sponsorships throughout history.
I think that's changing with gambling being legal. I mean, like, look at some of the sponsors for like legalized sports betting. It's pretty robust, and like, you know, nobody's shying away.
But the poker's biggest, most widespread event of the year still is unable to capture any mainstream or even outside of its own industry sponsors. Like GTO Wizard being the sponsor of
the headline sponsor.
Yeah, the headline sponsor is not, I can't imagine WSOP's choice, but we know it's their only option. I mean,
it's not WSOP, that's PokerGo.
Or PokerGo. Like,
this is the last year that they own the license. Now GG will take it over in 2026. So we're going to see sweeping change. We just don't know what that means. It might not be on TV at all any longer. I'm sure it'll be free. Obviously, it'll be free. GG doesn't have a paid platform to watch it on. But yeah, like, your point is very well taken. We were a paid sponsor. We were a secondary sponsor in the COVID year, 2021. So it's like, you know, we're very, 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 very small. And a very far cry from Bush Light or whoever it used to be. Like, Jack Links.
And this kind of, you know, is kind of going in a little bit of a different direction, but maybe worth talking about too. But that's like, you know, how do you change that? Right? Like, how do you...
it's the age-old question, I think.
Sorry?
I think that's like the age-old question. That's the hurdle that they've been fighting for the better part of a decade.
Well, I would like to maybe take a little stab at it, right? So it comes with some kind of cohesion that you're talking about, but like, starting from the point of, you know, how do you want poker to look, you know, to the rest of the world? What do you want that image to be? You know, I mean, a nonprofit or some kind of clearinghouse org or some kind of overarching overseer of poker's future that has the ability to do something like hiring a think tank or a marketing firm or an advertising firm or somewhere in the area of a lobbyist, some kind of overarching thought structure that can help guide an industry through very murky waters right now. You know, like, each of these independent, like, we joke about ACR and their PR team or lack thereof, you know, each of these platforms that we talk about, they all have their independent PR and marketing strategies, and that doesn't necessarily align with positive growth of the game or understanding what needs to happen for the entire game to survive.
I think that was kind of the point that I was making with the opportunity that PokerGo had as a larger platform, in the sense that the marketing in poker is twofold. It's the media outlets and it's the streamed / televised content. And PokerGo had the opportunity to have complete and utter control of both. They ignored the media outlet side of things, and they insulated the content side of things. So Hustler immediately came in and got more eyeballs in general over the course of 3 years than Go did. And that now shifted the narrative of what this space looks like. Triton comes in. So basically, like, there's some cooperation, but there's also a lot of competition. And I guess from my perspective, it's like, if I was Kerry building out this platform, I would want it to be where PokerGo was just ESPN and Triton and Stars, and everybody was just looking to partner with us to distribute, right? It's just a distribution platform. It's distribution of content, it's distribution of media, it's distribution of news, it's distribution of marketing. All of that now comes in-house. All Go really has to do is build out these arms to distribute things appropriately and message things appropriately, while collecting, or I guess partnering with advertisers and, bringing them all in. Very viable. That Kerry didn't see that as a reasonable path. And I can understand why. It's not easy.
Advertisers. Who are the advertisers?
Exactly. That's the point. So, like, maybe you just don't see it as maybe he doesn't see it as a viable path, because, like, what advertisers are going to want to get on board?
Well, he doesn't see it as a viable path, maybe because poker as a product is not a viable product to pitch yet to the open market. That's what has to change. It can change. I see it capable of changing. It is just not ready to go on the open market right now.
Right. But if it's going to change because there's one cohesive network. It's the chess.com, right? Chess.com cohesively packaged chess. PokerGo could have cohesively packaged poker. And what I'm saying is that they chose not to. They chose to carve out their own little thin slice of high rollers, right? And then just let the rest of poker brand and market itself however they see fit. And you end up with Hustler. You end up with, competitors in Triton and Stars and GG and, so on down the line. Like, it seems like something went awry if you were the only poker media distribution company in existence 3 years ago, and now you have 7 competitors.
I don't know. I think that you're wanting, possibly selfishly or idealistically, more altruism from Kerry. I think that I don't know if he'll ever, like, turn a profit there, and it might be the case that he is actually profiting now. I don't know, like, their subscription numbers, but I think it's hard to believe that he could have done better with the model that you're suggesting and not pursued it. Like, I'm willing to give him credit as being, like, pretty sharp in business. And the fact that we haven't seen anyone else do this. Like, I think the absence of people doing the things you guys are talking about is evidence that these are not viable models. Like, I think that's, like, my economist opinion on this.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of money to make. I don't think there's a lot of money to make, but I think if I were going to enter the space anyway, which Kerry did, I guess my impression is that Poker.org is making money. Poker News is making money. Triton is probably, close to break even. All these competitors, Hustler's probably making money. If that's all true, then you just having ultimate control of all of that and, basically taking a haircut along the way seems like you would probably make money. But maybe I'm wrong. And I guess it comes down to incentives too.
How some of these outlets are doing. Like, I guess I'm just extremely skeptical that they're, like, I thought live streams for casinos were loss leaders. Like, generally
for
speaking.
the casino, they are. For the outlet streaming them, they're not. Like, Hustler's losing money on the stream, but Ryan and HCL Live or Hustler Casino Live, whatever, are very much making money.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I guess I'm of the opinion that this is a game that, when given the opportunity to cooperate, has frequently defected. When entities have had the opportunity to do things that were good for the game, they chose to do the opposite. We have a graveyard of bad operators in the space. All of the people before Black Friday, you've got Ultimate Bet and you've got Full Tilt and Stars in more recent memory and Party and Epic and it's a litany of people that have had an opportunity to improve the game, and it seemed like Stars was going to be the one that was going to save the game for the longest time. And then Phil Galfond came along, and it's like, okay, this venture is going to save the game, and that just did not do well. And so this is someone who was trying to figure out, how can I save this game? He's the last person who I think expressed the amount of optimism that the two of you have expressed today. Was how he talked about how we need to change the game, how it's done, how we do rake back, how we fight solvers, and it just didn't do well, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's all pretty valid. We got to wrap. It's been a minute. Appreciate both of you coming on to discuss this. I'm sure it'll be a conversation that carries forward in the future. Katie, I hope everything's going well in the fundraising ventures
Streets.
over down in Houston. Yeah, if you need any poker players to hire, I'm sure that at least a dozen watching the show will be in contact.
Listen, I actually am. I have my my social media team creating a whole campaign right now geared completely towards poker players, because I am in desperate need for some good thinkers and people who are able to manage multiple things and multitask. And these are all things that, online poker players are typically very good at. And so yeah, I saw Phil Galfond's Instagram post too. It's worked for him, so I'm going to try it too.
Yeah. Good. All right. Thank you guys. We'll be in touch. I'm sure we'll do this again sometime. Appreciate you both as always. That's going to do it for us. I hope you guys enjoyed today's show. We're going to be back, I believe, Thursday.
Yeah.
We're not back tomorrow, right?
Right.
All right. We'll be back Thursday, noon Pacific. Maybe Hanks is going to be in studio to claim his Weekend Warrior victory and bring my fucking belt. I want my belt.
Need that belt.
Need the belt.
That's the Total's punishment. Go work with Katie.
There you go. You got to go.
That's not punishment.
To the nonprofit ventures. All right, yeah, we'll be back Thursday at noon. We'll see you guys all then.
Peace.